He's the radiated Slow Loris of morning talk radio straight from Fukushima. It's your host, one and only, Adam Josh.
Save your applause. Welcome everybody to the Morning Banana Show. Welcome back to the Morning Banana Show. Are we upside down right now? Are we still upside down? I'm not recording this thing upside down. Twitter Live, whatever they want to call it these days, can... Are we right side up now? I'm not recording this whole thing upside down, so Twitter can... Alright. Welcome. Alright, we're live, and we're right side up. Welcome everybody. You know, it's been a string of technical difficulties today. But you gotta fight for the morning banana shows that you want to eat. My name is Morning Bananas That You Want to Eat. My name is Adam Josh. That's what my mama named me. And this is a banana. This will be the 48th banana that we've shared. I'm looking at two different cameras here. And, you know, I'll tell you this. It's good to be back. Good to be back in the saddle of the morning banana again. And, so much stuff has just been going on. I don't even know where to start. I was talking with a longtime friend on the Twitter, CivilianX at Bookish Neptune. You know, him and I share a lot in common. He's in kind of the same line of work. And so we're all over the place and seeing different things. And there's another few people that I keep in touch with on Twitter that I really do respect. And the topic of nukes came up, nuclear weapons came up yesterday, so I thought I would have him on to talk about nukes. So I'm going to give him a buzz, but to catch everybody up here, man, I've had guests over at my house for a little over 2 weeks, and they just left yesterday. So, you know, some days were a little bit more better than others, but we had guests for 2 weeks, and one of the things I wanted to talk to CivilianX about, and I'm kind of excited to get him on the phone, is he was asking me when my guests arrived because he had an idea of who they were. I don't want to say too much about them for their privacy's sake, but one was a professor of science and math. Anybody who is seriously interested, I could DM you or give you the guy's information. Lecturer, author, whatever. It's not a secret, it doesn't really matter to tell you who the guy is, but it's not, what purpose is it going to serve to tell you all his information publicly? So, but anyway, yeah, Civ was asking me when he came, the first night, so how's the Flat Earth conversation going? We did get there, and that's funny, but to chat about, the other thing I've been busy with is building restaurant number 4 in Brantford. Of course, Brantford is not in Niagara, where I'm at right now. Maybe Brantford would be considered Niagara, I'm not sure. But it's not anywhere close to where I'm at. So when I've been there, I've been staying at a house that we have in Brantford, and I have been driving up and staying for 2 nights or staying for 1 night, coming back. So a lot to talk about, but the bottom line is, I don't want to bore everybody with the details, but in construction, you can only go so far, right? Before other things have to be done. Like, for example, you can't start working on the drop ceiling and putting restaurant equipment on top of the floor if the tiling isn't done and the plumbing isn't done. Does that make sense? So in the order of events, you would want to do the plumbing and the tiling first before you start getting into laying heavy restaurant equipment on top of the floor, because the floor isn't done. So this is common knowledge, common sense. So there is a general order of things. I don't know if you can see this video. I'm going to turn the screen over. So this was an update from yesterday, a little kind of a 360 video update I did of the restaurant. So this is where we're at, starting from, there used to be an existing business in there, so we started leasing the unit and did some demolition, and then I took over the last couple of weeks, and this is where we're at.
I think the 6th dump run in total of the drywall that came off the walls and a little chunk off the bulkhead. So we've cleaned up our little mess here. And I've stacked our doors up along the wall.
It's 86 feet from front to
we're
back.
in limbo, I guess, waiting for the roof to get done.
Ceilings are 12 feet high.
No, it's not.
This partition wall is going to be the end of our restaurant.
The gentleman who's doing this drywall will come and finish it apparently today.
And that's another unit on the other side. So up until that wall is 85 and
This will be
change.
the end of the restaurant.
See, 86 feet. So we're trying to make it, get to the point where we can start constructing. You can't start building if you have existing structures. And another thing that we have had issue with is I have the blueprints for the building. It was built in 1980, so 1 year older than I am. So this is what I've been doing, and why I haven't been doing the morning banana shows lately, and I apologize for that, but business has to come first. I could go on and on and on and on about construction, and I'm sure that would just bore the hell out of everybody. So let's give CivilianX a call and catch up with him on the phone, see how he's been. I haven't talked to him in a while. You get used to all these people. I get used to talking with CivilianX and hanging out with you guys, and then all of a sudden, we get so busy with life. CivilianX, the one and only. Follow him on Twitter at Bookish Neptune.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is this CivilianX?
It is.
Hey, good to chat with you. Long time no talk. How have you been? And welcome, and thank you for joining the Morning Banana Show number 48.
Yeah, just like you, I've been busy working, man.
Yeah, tell me about it. And it just feels like we've been at it for like 2-3 weeks solid, and haven't really caught a break until, for me, it was yesterday evening.
Yeah, for me, it's been pretty good weather here, so when it's good weather, I got to get out there and make that money stuff.
Yeah, well, we work like crazy people for a reason, and at the end of the day, it pays the bills and affords us this lifestyle.
Well, I get to take me nice long breaks in the winter, so that's the good thing for me. So I usually get me a good 4-month break a year, so.
Yeah, well, so we started building this restaurant, and I went up there. I've been up to Brantford this last 2 weeks, and I talked to you a bit about it on Twitter here and there, but basically this building was built in 1980 out of all a wooden structure, and so over the years they added on a partition roof in the front, and like for signage to be hung on, and then it's leaking from that point. So the leaks have never been addressed. Some guy just recently bought a pretty important heavy duty, whatever you want to call him, heavy hitter real estate agent bought the building about I would say a year ago, and he didn't realize the extent of the water damage that was done, and in his buying it on power of sale, he just kind of decided to start leasing it. And skip a few, we are the tenants that he's trying to lease to, and so unbeknownst to us, this place is, in the walls has mold and there's water in the basement. It was presented to us as, yeah, come on in, start building. You can open up your restaurant by July. Yeah. So it's been fun, but saying all that, I'm glad that I went instead of trusting it to a contractor, because when we realized something was fishy, that's when I wanted to get involved. So I didn't really want to start tearing down the walls and taking off crap that I've been doing, but in the end, you can't have mold behind the walls in a restaurant. So I'm glad that I did that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, if you're not careful, some contractors will just come in and try to cover that back up and not even tell you.
Is it normal where you're at to use aspenite on walls with stucco, or do you use plywood? Like,
every state here has different, rules and all of that. But no, where I'm at, most of the time you're actually going to see them using OSB, not even plywood. Now, the particular state that I work in the most, just to give you a little idea of the building codes here, it's so poor that roofs for homes, they don't even have to have felt on them when they're built.
you told me that before. That's bizarre.
Yeah, so, and then it's different for every state in the United States. So, but yeah, hell, I can go on for days with the problems. But what it comes down to is that they know precisely what they're doing, just like with anything else. The weaker building codes simply mean more repairs in the future, which is job security. It's all about keeping people working. It's the same reason they never fixed the streets properly, because everybody would be out of a job. Simple math.
Yeah.
So, but hey, my business is primarily based on polishing turds. So what can I say?
Yeah, well, anyway, it's good to be back in the office for a bit, but I mean, you know how it is with construction. I've basically hit limbo where I've torn everything down that I can. The owner of the building is on the hook for the aspenite wall and stucco repairs and repairing all the mold. The roof is still leaking, and it's been raining here, so his point is the roofers are scheduled to come in on the 20th and re-roof the whole thing. But if it keeps raining, what the heck are they going to do? So it really sucks the position that we're all in, but it's we're not going to build a structure or put 2 layers of, Type X gypsum board, expensive fire-rated drywall. We're not going to put any of that crap on the walls or the ceiling until the freaking roof stops leaking. So get the freaking roof done. And
and kill the mold, so you have to wait for all of that. So.
Yep. No, he says he's going to cut it out and repair it, but we'll see. They came in on I don't know, I didn't tell you this. They came in on last Friday. These construction contractor guys that he hired with 3. I think I did tell you. They came in with 3 fans, and it was still leaking. And I go, what are you doing, man? And he goes, well, I'm here to. I was thinking I could dry this out. And I look over at the water dripping down the wall from the ceiling, and I said, well, the roof is leaking, man. And he goes, yeah. And we just kind of stare at each other, and I said, so you're not going to be able to dry that out because the roof is leaking? He goes, yep. And he goes, okay, well, guys, I guess we got to go. He just turns around and walks right back out. So it's a bit of a mess, but yeah, everybody's kind of in limbo. So for me, that's good because I get out of Brantford for a while. I don't really like being away from home. And the kids, and I got stuff to do here at the office that I've been avoiding, and now I can get back to it. But another thing that had come up is that we had guests for about 2 weeks, and that one of them was a professor. He's semi-retired now and gives lectures here and there, and so you had asked me the first night that he was down, did the topic of flat Earth come up yet?
Yeah.
And it eventually did, but I think he was trying, because I have bumper stickers all over my vehicles.
Sure.
So it eventually did come up, but he's a weird cat. He was coming at me sideways about it, and didn't want to speak directly to me. So, for example, we were over at this vegan restaurant for supper, him and I and the kids and Desiree, and he started talking to Desiree about my bumper stickers. So he's like, well, I noticed that you have some bumper stickers there, these Earth is flat bumper stickers, and this is just a total slight to the whole education system, and I don't understand what this means, and why would anybody put this on their car? I don't know. I'm sitting right beside him, but he's talking to Desiree. So he's one of those guys where him and I, the entire time, he would have rather talked to my kids or talk to Desiree about Ball Earth. So at one point, Caden, my oldest son, who's turning 9 soon, he was at the dinner table, and he's saying, I hear him from the other room, Earth is a ball. I don't care what you say. Earth is not a ball. Earth is flat. And then you hear the professor saying stuff like, well, we have modern science, and people have told us, and this is scientific fact, and it is a ball, and it's actually, he was doing a Neil deGrasse Tyson thing, it's actually an oblate spheroid, and you hear Caden from the other room, Earth isn't a pear, Earth is flat. So, to answer your question, he was more comfortable talking to children about Ball Earth, and I stopped myself from getting angry and saying, like, this whole thing is for kids. Like, why are you talking to children about something as, like, this is an adult conversation? Why do you feel more comfortable indoctrinating children and people who don't have developed minds yet about this subject? But like you've always said, it's all for the kids, right? And it's directed at people who can't really have these cognitive reasoning about it. They just want to indoctrinate children instead. So the guy was more comfortable talking to kids, and when the last couple nights that he was here, he wanted to get into it, but instead he basically went at Desiree about Ball Earth, and Desiree said, well, the bumper sticker kind of means that space farce, it's kind of a play on space force, and Trump is stealing your tax dollars, and the only thing he can say to that, because like most academics, they kind of inherently hate Trump or have this Trump derangement syndrome about them, but the only thing he could say to that was, I keep getting phone calls, of course, but the only thing he could say to that was, well, of course they're stealing your tax dollars, but they're stealing your tax dollars for that and so much more. That was his only rebuttal. So in the end, it was basically like he never talked to me directly about it for 2 weeks that he was staying at my house. He would rather talk to my kids and talk to Desiree. And the other thing was, it was just appeals to authority. There was no scientific proof. There was no observation. There was no nothing. It was just, I'm going to say words and you're going to say words. And in the end, because I'm a professor, you're wrong.
Yeah, of course. I call it too smart for their own good. But on that topic, real quick, though, this is why you see a lot of these so-called debates on YouTube, because that's all it is. It's just a big go in a circle, arguing. Neither side are really dropping facts. There's a lot of disinformation out there as well. And all the arguments are really weak on each side. And I think that's done purposefully just to keep the debate mindless, because that's what they want, is a mindless debate.
Yeah.
So, but that's generally what you see. I mean, these arguments that are brought forth are obviously really weak for the globe. Simple things like, oh, where's the picture of the edge, or how come no one has been to the edge? But my favorite, real quick, though, is, I think about this one a lot, is, well, where are the whistleblowers? Well, my question is, who in the hell are they going to tell? They can't tell. Are they going to tell the mainstream media and call up CNN and say, hey, CNN, I'm a whistleblower. CNN's, okay, let me get right down there. So, yeah. But there are certain whistleblowers, particularly during the Apollo mission and stuff. So, people just, I don't know, these arguments that people bring forth are just more indoctrination, because when people hear it, they say, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. And there's no pictures of the edge, so that means Earth can't be flat. That's just so ignorant. How can you be that ignorant? I don't understand.
I don't understand it either. But we were talking about something on people living in, nuclear wasteland, inside the ghost town of Fukushima yesterday. And then I brought up the point, okay, well, people inside the ghost town of Fukushima, it's a ghost town, right? But then somehow people are living to this day in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And then the only rebuttal I've heard to that over the years when I've gone on about, well, how the hell can people live in Nagasaki and Hiroshima when people can't live in Chernobyl right now? The only arguments I've heard to that over the years are, well, it was a different type of weapon. So atomic weapons don't leave radiation, and nuclear weapons do. And if you look it up, the Fat Boy and the Small Boy and Fat Man rather, they don't leave nuclear radiation that people can't. It doesn't make any sense, the arguments that people have given me over the years, but you're a little bit older than I am, so you've probably lived through a lot of that. But what are your thoughts on... I know it's a heated topic in the Flat Earth community, but I'm really open-minded about it. And I know that as far as my parents go, I talked to them about... Like, I was born in 81, right? So I talked to my parents about World War I and II, and about the moon landings and about nukes in particular. I talked to my mom about the nuclear bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it's the funny thing is it's the exact same response that you get when you ask them about the moon landing with my mom, is that we heard it on the radio. We heard the bombs dropped on the radio. We heard the man land on the moon on the radio, or we watched it on black and white TV. But you and I both know now that all those black and white TV images were recorded, and none of them were live, so they could have been watching anything. And those older footage, the old stock footage of nuclear weapons tests, now when you look at it with 2019 eyeballs, it's clearly a model. So there's so many questions that I don't have answered, but what are your thoughts on this nukes and atomic weapons, and what do you think really went on with Fukushima and Nagasaki and Hiroshima?
Well, Fukushima, real quick, I had recently tweeted something out. Discovery Channel did an episode on that. I think it was last year, but I just stumbled upon it on YouTube. And the woman hosting it is the same woman that did this recent Flat Earth documentary on Discovery Channel. So anyway, it's interesting to watch them act and how they do that. But yeah, if you were to watch that documentary, that Discovery documentary on Fukushima, if you can't tell they're acting there, again, it's one of them things I can't really help you with. But
yeah.
So yeah, Fukushima was a complete scam. Obviously, we've been told since day one, all the fishes are going to die in the sea and blah, 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 blah. But anyway, so nuclear meltdown in nuclear facilities, I think that they have an immediate impact, okay? And I think they make it more than it supposedly is. So, considering I don't have, the equipment or the capability to go down there and test for radiation, we can't prove that, so that's really difficult to say. But poisoning the entire ocean from Japan all the way to the United States, yeah, that's nothing but fear porn, in my opinion. The nuclear weapons, there again, there's no bigger fear porn in the whole world, in my opinion, than that, because that's been since day one. The so-called Cold War. What is the Cold War? Well, if you really get down to the nuts and bolts of what is the Cold War, or what was the Cold War, that was the threat of nuclear weapons. So the whole world lived in fear for 40, 50 years just based on that. That's not even true.
Right.
But anyway, so let's get down to it real quick.
Yeah, please.
It's been a long time since I've researched this, so
Yeah.
I'm going to get a small facts wrong, but, forgive me. But so when I first started researching it, I come across the images of, cities that were firebombed.
Yeah.
By the Allies compared to the damage that was done in, Hiroshima, right?
Right.
So some of these things, like, that don't make sense to me, or that I think would get people thinking, is that, first of all, there was over 60 cities in Japan that were firebombed, okay? in some of those cities that were firebombed. Now, of course, we're all just saying official story here. Official story is that at least one of those cities was 99% destroyed, okay? And I don't remember the name. It's something like Toyama or something like that.
Yeah.
But, for instance, Tokyo, the capital, the official story is that was firebombed, and that was over 50% destroyed. Okay? So you have 60 cities that were firebombed before this supposedly happened. And then when you look at the official story, the majority of all those cities were, in range of about 60 to 70%. So that was the average. So there's an average completely destroy rate of 60 to 70% of these firebombings. And Hiroshima was supposedly like 65% destroyed. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, so the war was practically over. Okay? Germany had already surrendered. Mussolini had already been executed. Okay? So we're talking months later, 5-6 months later. So basically the war was already over. We had already firebombed all these cities and destroyed all these cities. But suddenly we had to drop this big nuke and destroy these two cities, right? So that's part of it. There again, just comparatively, I've done this many times. I've done a test. I've posted pictures of all these other cities that were firebombed and completely destroyed, basically. And I'd say, which of these cities is Fukushima and which is Hiroshima? And none of them are. So that's the trick there. None of them are, yet people say, oh, well, that's Hiroshima there. Well, none of them are officially, right? And the other thing interesting growing up, and this is true with a lot of military in the U.S., I don't mean any disrespect when I say this, but I know for a fact a lot of people are liars, especially when it comes to nuclear weapons. I've met people that claim that they have an uncle that, works in the nuclear silos. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have silos that have some kind of rocket or something in there, but my joke is that everybody's granddad was on the plane that dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me, interestingly enough, my ex-business partner claimed that his granddad was on the plane that dropped the bombs. And I even told him straight up, I said, well, either you're a liar or he's a liar.
Wow.
But really, everybody says that. They know someone who was on the plane who dropped them bombs, right? So, but yeah, other things about, being on the ground, for instance, there was officially, we had Allied scouting crews that reviewed the site just days later to go over the damage.
Yeah.
Some kind of secret scouting crews.
And do nuclear weapons or atomic weapons, do they kill everybody or not? Because you could see people and existing structures that weren't damaged, people like wandering around after the bombs allegedly dropped, and wooden structures still standing at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, like, do nukes and atomic weapons kill people or do they not? Do they blow stuff up or do they not? Like, it's really confusing to me when I got into it.
Well, apparently they take all your clothes off and you live.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reports of people claiming that their clothes were completely taken off of them, and then you've got these images where they say that a person was sitting on some stone steps and it just completely disintegrated them.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of that is obviously some garbage. But back to the radiation,
Yes.
so-called radiation and fallout, right? So we had Allied scouting crews that were there.
Yep.
And then there's a supposed British journalist who went on site just weeks later. And then officially we had the Allied medical team that came in to help the so-called survivors there.
Yeah.
And that was about, I think, a month or so after this happened. So, yeah, they claimed that the land and everything's going to be poisoned for 60 years. However, yeah, there's thriving cities in these locations.